Brother Abdullah from the KSA had a few questions. The first was that my mom is always arguing with me that the Qur'an contains all theories of science. This is something needs a detailed explanation. First of all, whatever in the Qur'an cannot be categorized as a theory or theories, because when you say a theory, it could be right, it could be wrong. Even nowadays, we have very advanced technology and science, but some researchers and some theories say something. A few years later, a new theory would prove that the old one is an old-fashioned and it was not entirely correct, or it was completely wrong. And then there is a new theory, and then another new theory would overwrite the former theory. That's why it's called a theory. But whatever in the Qur'an, as Allah the Almighty says, لا يأتيه الباطل من بين يديه ولا من خلفه. Vain and falsehood does not come to the Qur'an from any direction, because it is the word of Allah. Then in another ayah, Allah the Almighty says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Surah An-Nisa. In this ayah, Allah orders us to ponder over the Qur'an, and He condemns those who neglect the worship of pondering over the Qur'an and its verses. And He says then, had this Qur'an been from other than Allah, most certainly you would have found in it a great deal of controversy or conflict in its statements. But since it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it is definitely the ultimate truth. So even if science talk about a theory, then later on, the theory is either confirmed or not confirmed, and the Qur'an says otherwise. We as Muslims believe in the Qur'an and neglect whatever theory that contradicts the Qur'an if the message in the Qur'an is clear. Take for instance in Surah Al-Hadid, when Allah the Almighty says, وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ فِيهِ بَأْسٌ شَدِيدٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ. This is a very important reference in the Qur'an. The whole surah is named after this word in this ayah. We'll talk about it after this call, inshallah. The reference I gave earlier as just a sign that sometimes science is way behind. Then the Qur'an, which was revealed more than 1400 years ago, stated things which only nowadays or a few years ago or a couple decades ago science came to confirm. So we say the Qur'an is the ultimate truth, whether it is confirmed scientifically or not. And this is for the believers, obviously. When Allah the Almighty says, وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ فِيهِ بَأْسٌ شَدِيدٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ. And we have sent down iron, the metal iron. Allah used the word أَنزَلْنَا, similar to وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. And we send down from the heavens the rainwater. So if people did not find out scientifically the origin of iron atoms, they would say there is an error in the Qur'an. And that's why some people in the translation, before discovering the fact about the iron metal, and it was not even created on Earth or any planet in our solar system, rather in huge galaxies which are known as, when they explode, which is known as supernova, and these atoms of iron at extreme high temperature, they precipitate, they fall down on the planets of our solar system. And this is how Allah the Almighty described them exactly as وَأَنزَلْنَا, and we send down iron. Okay? But we should not generalize and say every scientific theory is referred to in the Qur'an, because the Qur'an is not a book of science. The Qur'an is not a book of math. The Qur'an is not a book of grammar or Arabic grammar. The Qur'an is a book of worship, but it has great significance and indications and miraculous nature that covers all these areas. There is the ayah, so that check it out of for your reference. It will be very interesting to study more about that. Of course, there are many references, but for the sake of time, I have to move on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.